All right, it's about 7 o'clock, so we can start. So, very good evening to everyone. I am Chiti Arvind from ISA Tirupati, and I'll be conducting your tutorial / discussion session today for the NPTEL course on wildlife ecology. And I wish I could have all of you introduce yourselves, but I don't think that might be possible because we have different bunch of students, I think, every day. But I think you all, some of you might have also attended Jobin's tutorial on Friday, and we're going to do this a little bit different. We're going to try and engage in discussion if possible, so feel free to unmute yourself and talk, as well as use the chat box. So this is more of a discussion and doubt clearing session, and please feel free to raise your hand to ask any doubts if you have any queries as the tutorial proceeds. All right, so there's no way for me to allow everyone to just join in without me admitting them, but okay, all right. You all can hear me, right? Just checking again.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thanks a lot. Okay, so let's go to the absolute basics, and this is based on the first lecture. And what do you think ecology is? What do you think ecology is all about? Do you have any recording of the previous lecture is on YouTube? I can send you the link at the end of the class of the previous lecture. I'm not sure if you're talking about the tutorial or what, Raihanul Sarkar. Is it the class lectures? They should be on your NPTEL website, and the YouTube tutorials have a YouTube link. I think this was sent to all the course attendees. Friday's lecture. All right, Friday's lecture is on YouTube. I can send you the link at the end of the class. Just do remind me. Or I can just post it on the discussion forum. I think that might be better. All right, so any takers to what is ecology? As I said, I'm not going to show you MCQs. Any words, you can just throw up any words or what you feel.
Biotic and abiotic life.
All right.
In the ecosystem.
Correct. Yeah, that's a very good point that you have brought straight away. So, what did you mention? Did you say what the biotic and abiotic factors? Interaction.
Abiotic and biotic factors.
Correct. So yes, that is a really crucial word that you have brought up, Pranjal. So, oh my God, this pinging is not going to stop. All right. Okay. So I think you've hit the nail on the head. So what is ecology? Ecology is a scientific study of interactions that you already mentioned that determines the distribution and abundance of organisms. So let's go a little bit deeper and ask what are interactions? What do you mean by interactions? Could any of you give any examples of interactions? All right, somebody raised their hand. Please go ahead. I can't see. I think I have too many tabs open.
Ma'am,
yeah.
Insects and their pollen distribution.
Okay, right, sure. That is interactions between, what can you say, interactions between plants and flowers?
Yeah, no, insects and flowers.
Insects and flowers? Yeah, sure. Yes, exactly. So that is a very good example of an interaction. Any other examples of interactions? Okay, I'm just gonna put the chat on view. Cattle and egret association. Yes, correct. That is correct, Devanshu. Okay, all right. So you have an idea of what interactions are, right? And somebody already stated interactions between biotic and abiotic factors, which is very correct, right? So all these interactions affect the distribution and abundance of organisms, which is what we are interested in studying in the field of ecology. So now, since you've already mentioned biotic and abiotic factors, could you give me a few factors abiotic or abiotic factors that can affect distribution and abundance. Could you like list out some?
Abiotic factors can be like temperature and climate
Right.
and availability of that what we call food.
Right.
And biotic factors are like organisms that are living in that particular area.
Sure, yes. I think everyone has the correct idea of this. I see available water, climate, temperature. Yeah. So your abiotic factors are basically comprising all your environmental factors, which is your temperature, precipitation, elevational gradient, your general landscape, and then your biotic factors consists of all the living organisms, which is your plants, animals, fungi, and any living organisms. All right. Okay, so I think that is very clear to everyone. So moving on. What are the ways to study ecology? Now we studied 3 different ways of how ecology can be studied, and to give you a brief overview, this is a long-term experiment conducted at Silwood Park at Imperial College, and basically if you can see, this is a satellite view map on the left, which you can see these small circles. They are actually huge ponds that are, it's called the mesocosm system, and they are ponds that are these bucket kind of structures, as you see on the right in an enlarged photo. They have 96 of them or more placed in this area in the open, and they conduct certain ways to study ecology. Could anyone guess what this way could be of studying ecology?
Observation, ma'am.
Sorry, I don't think I heard you clearly. Could you repeat? I think
Field observation, ma'am.
field observation. Yeah, you're close, but this is actually not field observation. So let me give you a little bit of more of a insight into this. They control the temperature, the water content, the nutrients present in this, what is growing in this. They are controlling for all these factors. So these researchers that you see standing out here are, I'm not going to use the word, but yeah.
Experimental?
Correct. So this is an experimental setup to study ecology, because since it looks pretty open, yes, because they are all exposed equally to all the environmental factors, but in turn they also have ways to regulate temperature and nutrient content, and also what grows. So yes, this is an experimental setup, though it is in the open, it is not in a laboratory, but it is an experimental setup. Right. So now moving on to another method. Well, I think all the slides seem to show what they are, but could you guess what is happening in both of these figures that are shown? So this is a field method to study ecology. I think
Quadrant method?
yeah, that's very correct. That is the quadrat method. That's a really good guess. Sorry?
Theoretical method.
No, it's not a theoretical method. It is a field method, as is already it's shown on the slide. It's a field method. But someone said quadrat way to. Does anyone know what a quadrat method? So this is actually the quadrat method, which is this person holding a grid with strings tied to it, and this is actually a intertidal region of near the sea, where they are using quadrats to measure. Any guesses?
To study the abundance of the trees or the organism in that field?
Right. So for trees, you wouldn't use quadrats, because you can't put these structures around trees. But here in this, they are measuring some mussels and marine creatures that are found very close to the shoreline. So they're actually estimating abundances. So they're putting these quadrats because you cannot go and sample an entire area. So instead of that, you have like a measured region in a reference frame called as a quadrat, and you count all the number of organisms and the species and their numbers within this particular area. And then you kind of estimate what the entire area could have based on your calculations of organisms present in these particular quadrats, right? And all right, so that this is one method. And what do you think is happening here with the tree?
It is taking the girth of the tree.
Correct. Yes. Could you tell me a little bit more about this?
Yeah, it is basically the measurement is taken at a height of 1.35 centimeter above the ground.
Right.
And we basically use this measuring tape to find out the basal area
Right.
or the girth of the stem in basically in plant ecology.
Right, correct. So yes, this is a way of studying, measuring vegetation. And yes, as you correctly mentioned, this is the diameter at breast height, which is at a certain distance from the ground. And you estimate, like you can also estimate biomass in this way, as well as the different species of trees in a particular area. Yes, I think does someone have a doubt? All right. Okay. So if we move on, okay. So this is another method to study ecology, and this is an example from your lecture. Could someone like to explain the graph, or tell me first what the graph is about? So you have time on the yes.
Predator-prey relationship.
Yes,
Relationship.
correct. Could you tell me a little bit more in detail as to what is happening? Would you like to explain the graph?
The prey and predator population
As
are
the- As the number of
Alright, I think someone was speaking earlier. Maybe Anmol, go ahead. 1 second, Rai Anmol. 1 second. Amol, you can go ahead. I think you had started.
Ma'am, prey and predator population
Right?
are interdependent. If the prey population is declined,
Right.
the predator population also decline.
Mm-hmm.
Such kind of relationship is there.
Alright, so can you tell me, like, or even anybody else? Where is my pointer gone? Alright, is my pointer visible? Can you tell me what is happening at, like, this point? Like, right at the start of the graph? So what is more? Is prey more or predator more?
ma'am, prey is more than predators.
Right, prey is more than predator. So what do you think is going to happen? So, and you can see that the prey graph
The
is
predator will feed.
right. Predator will feed, but the as per the graph, what is happening to the predator line at the start, which is the red one?
At the start it is decline.
Right, it's declining. And what is happening when the predator goes down?
The number of prey increases.
Correct. So I think you have mentioned the number of prey is directly proportional to the number of predators. So do you think that is correct? So is it directly proportional or
Inversely, ma'am.
correct? Yes. So that's correct. So it's inversely proportional. And as you can see, these cycles are not also very much in line with each other. So you do have points like this where my cursor is right now, where the predator peaks and the prey suddenly drops. But then when the prey suddenly drops, then there is no prey, so the predators again decline and the preys continue to increase. So this is also known as the Lotka-Volterra equation, and this was a theoretical model that was designed, or that was that these two scientists, Lotka and Volterra, came up with. So it is a huge bunch of equations which is quite technical, but perhaps we might cover it later on. But as long as you have the basic idea of this, this is a great example of a theoretical way to study ecology. So now moving on to the next. Oops, my cursor isn't okay. All right, so we have a few questions about from lecture 2, which is a historical overview of the field of ecology. Can someone tell me what is binomial nomenclature? What is its importance and who devised it? Okay, let's start with who devised it. Anybody else who hasn't spoken yet? Or feel? Yes, correct. That is correct. And would you like to tell me what is binomial nomenclature?
The naming of an organism in a two name.
Mm-hmm.
The first name is generic name and the other one is a specific name. That is species name.
Right, correct. So what is the first one? Sorry, I think I missed that.
Generic name.
Generic name. Yes, correct. So you have the genus and the species, and both these terms are ideally Latinized. And why do we need to have binomial nomenclature? I mean, it's so confusing, it's hard to remember very often. And what is the purpose of this? Why is there a need to have binomial nomenclature with a genus and a species? Why can't it just be one name? Why can't it be many names?
To identify the species universally by one name.
Right, correct. And what do you think are the problems that could happen if we didn't have binomial nomenclature?
Many people do not know about the regional language.
Yeah.
That one it make the fusion.
Correct. That's a very important point, because to do science we need to be able to communicate it in such a way that it is understood all over the world. Like they could be crows in several places all over the world, but out here it's called something, somewhere else it's called something else. Even if you take India as an example itself, like you have so many ways in which you could call a crow in several different languages. But if you don't have binomial nomenclature, you would all think you're talking about different species, but it's actually the same species. So to standardize it, you need binomial nomenclature. So I think all of you have gotten that right. Alright, so the next question is what is the study of biogeography, and who is the father of modern biogeography? Someone tell me who is the father of modern biogeography? You can use the chat as well. No one? Any guesses? Wallace? No.
Alfred Russell.
Is it Wallace? Any other guesses? Darwin?
Alfred Russell, ma'am.
James Spartan? Anybody else?
James Anderson, the last name.
Alright, any other guesses? Like we don't seem to have any unanimous verdict. Oops, I think this is right. Yeah, I see a Humboldt. Any more guesses? V. Vernesdansky. Oh, I think just stick to the lecture, and the tutorial is from all the scientists that have been covered in the lecture.
Humboldt, ma'am.
Yeah, right. It is Alexander von Humboldt. a lot of people are getting confused with Wallace, but Wallace was a contemporary of Charles Darwin, and he was also heavily um, involved in the theory of natural selection and the tenets of natural selection along with Charles Darwin. Yeah, but Humboldt is the correct answer. So Humboldt is known as the father of modern geography and biogeography. And can you tell me what is biogeography? Any guesses as to what biogeography is? Oops, lot more people.
Distribution of organisms.
Correct. Distribution.
Different ways.
Yes, correct. That's right.
Distribution of organism in different sphere.
Yeah, all correct answers. Yes, correct. All right. I think my mouse is hanging. All right. So next question is okay. This is an easy one. Who came up with the theory of natural selection?
Darwin.
Yep, I think everyone
Charles
knows
Darwin.
that. Yeah, correct. Charles Darwin. And why do you think it is important? Yep. A lot of people for Darwin. Why do you think it is important? Why is the theory of natural selection important? Or could somebody explain to me what does natural selection mean? In a couple of words.
Nature automatically selects the fittest individual species out of the population.
Right.
Then it tries to evolve it.
The population of the ecosystem.
Sorry, Pallavi? I don't think I heard you.
The population of living organisms.
Population, the thing is I can't use headphones to make a recording on this, and I think I have to find a better way.
Population of living organisms.
Estimate the population of, yes, sure, it is a part of natural selection. Yes, okay. Right. Yeah, it's
Individual fitness.
yes, correct. Yes, individual fitness, survival of the fittest, those are all the brief ways in which natural selection can be studied. Oh, there are people still joining in. All right. So, why is it important to study natural selection? Any guesses? There's
To
no.
understand the process of evolution.
Sure, yes, I think you hit the nail on the head, and that is an absolutely correct reply. Yeah.
After speciation is occur in an ecosystem. For that purpose, the natural selection is essential.
Right, correct. I think. Sorry?
Plant animal fossil.
Plant animal fossil. Is that what you said? Study of, okay. Study of fossils falls under the category of paleontology. But yes, historic records and fossilized records do give us a lot of information on species that are present now. They form a lot of links to existing animals. I think the most famous example that you might all know about is like the fossils of the woolly mammoth, which is known to be like where like one of the ancestors of our modern day elephants, right? But there are no woolly mammoths right now. So yes, fossil records are very important to study evolution. Alright, so the last one is, do you know who discussed about population ecology, community ecology and invasive species? Do you know who's the scientist behind this? Any guesses? You can use the chat. No one? Althus, I think the word population might have stumped you. No, not Malthus.
You would give
Elton, yes, someone's mentioned Elton. Yeah, so no, it's not Malthus.
Ma'am,
But
the study of the processes that affect the distribution and abundance of animal and plant population.
okay, what is this about? What is ecology?
मैम ये डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन एंड अबंडेंस एनिमल प्लांट की पॉपुलेशन में
Uh-huh.
जिसमें डायनामिक जैसे वो स्ट्रक्चर होते हैं
Uh, are you telling me about invasive species, or what are you answering to? The question is, who discussed about population ecology, community ecology, and invasive species? So it is a scientist.
It's Odom, ma'am.
No, it's not Odom. It's actually, as some of you have mentioned in the chat, it is Charles Sutherland Elton. Sorry?
Charles Ecology.
Pallavi, I can't hear you really clearly. I'm really sorry. Maybe you could just use the chat box.
Yes, ma'am.
I can hear you sometimes clearly, but not sometimes. So anyway, so this person, so the scientist who discussed about these three things was Charles Sutherland Elton. And could someone tell me what are invasive species, and if you could give me any examples of what invasive species are?
Non-native species.
Non-native. Okay, so what do you say is native, and how do you say a species is non-native? Could you give me like an example?
It's an exotic species.
Carrot grass, that is Parthenium,
Congress
lantana
grass.
and water.
Lantana, yes. Definitely, yeah. I'm seeing.
Parthenium.
Correct, Parthenium.
And also the one of the best example is Nile perch, fishes.
Oh, yes, the Nile
Sure.
perch. Yes, correct. The Nile perch is one of the biggest examples of invasion, yeah. Alright, so I think I'll just prosopis, yeah, of course. Somebody has written non-native species that pose a threat to the native biodiversity. That is correct. So I think all of you might have seen this plant lantana everywhere. It is non-native to India and it rapidly spreads all over in like the Indian habitat, and a lot of people do find it very pretty because they have a lot of colorful flowers to it, but it is not a native species, and I don't know how to bring up an image on this without messing up something, but maybe like next time. I think all of you, I'll just put a picture of lantana the next time. Alright, so that is done. Alright, so now moving on to the third lecture. Why do you think animals need to have physical or behavioral adaptations? What are adaptations and why do they need to have adaptations? Why do animals need to adapt?
Survive in an environment or ecosystem.
Sure.
constantly changing.
Yeah, the environment is constantly changing. They need to survive. What else do they need to do? What do they need to do to survive? Okay, let's put it like that. What do they need to do to survive?
Make changes in their habit.
Go with the ancient
Make changes in their habitat. Okay, how do they make changes in their habitat? What could you like give me like any examples?
For example, migratory bird.
Okay, that's a interesting choice of example. What do you think are the adaptations of migratory birds? It's a good example. Like anyone else can answer as well. What do you think are... Okay, what are migratory birds? Could someone tell me what are migratory birds?
Ma'am, they migrate from their native place to some another place for due to a change in weather or climate phenomena.
Sure, the weather and climate is changing, but why are they migrating? Usually, you have they migrate for a particular purpose. Usually, any
For
guesses?
food
Food, ma'am,
purpose,
food.
For food, okay, no, we're talking about, we're still talking about migratory birds, okay? So, okay, fine. Resources, yes, to feed. What are the other reasons? Yes, go ahead, Monica.
For reproduction and to adapt in changing temperature.
Sure, yes. I think I was looking for this word for breeding purposes, for reproduction. Yes. So, what happens is you find a lot of migratory birds that migrate from very cold temperate regions to warmer tropical regions to breed. Right, and in some ways it works the other way as well. They go back to warmer temperate regions to breed, and they come to tropical regions when the temperate regions get really cold and they don't have enough resources. So yes, breeding is one of the, or reproduction is one of the reasons. So what actually are their adaptations for migration? What do you think happens in these birds? Any guesses of what behavioral or even physical adaptations? What do you think birds need to have to migrate? Okay, let me give you a hint. Several of these birds migrate several kilometers, highly large distances, and many of them fly at a single stretch, so they can fly for hours and days non-stop. Sure, I'm getting some physical adaptations like greater stamina, larger wings. Yes, of course. What do they need to do if they are flying continuously and they don't stop to eat?
Ma'am, lower,
Fat
ma'am,
deposition.
One person, please. Yeah.
ma'am, lower metabolism rate.
Sure, lower metabolism rate, but they need a lot of energy to fly. So, what do you think they would need?
They accumulate fat before the migratory period.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, they eat a lot just before the migration starts, so that they store a lot of their food in the form of fat deposits, and this serves as their yes, somebody has written continuous supply of energy. These fat deposits serve as an energy resource for them while they fly. So the more their amount to the more that they are able to deposit, the lesser number of breaks that they need to take, right? So this is one of the adaptations that migratory birds do have. All right. So could someone tell me what is fitness? I think we already discussed this briefly, but what exactly is fitness? And can it be measured across species? Can you measure a fitness between a cat and a dog? And with whatever your choice of answer is, could you please tell me if you can compare the fitness between a cat and a dog or not? So Pallavi has written a good particular genotype is at leaving offspring in the next generation related to the other genotype is called fitness. All right. Yeah, correct. So propagation of genes. Sure. Fitness between a cat and dog is not possible. All right. Intraspecific is possible. Could you maybe describe what is intraspecific for those who might not know? Anyone can take this? Intraspecific, yes, means within the same species, right? So you can't really compare the fitness between a cat and a dog because their functionality is totally different. Yes, you can only compare fitness between a particular species. So can you compare the fitness of, so we have gone into the same species. Here I've given you an example of a population of sparrows. Population of sparrows are found in India and in Europe. Can I compare fitness of a population of sparrows in India versus that in Spain? Can I do this? No. Any other responses? No. Okay. Yeah, alright. Environment is different, that's correct. Sure. Yeah, so you can't really compare the fitness of a population of the same species in two different environments because, since the environmental factors are different, the species they are not comparable because they are subjected to different temperatures, different precipitation factors, several other abiotic as well as even biotic factors such as food and resources. So to compare two populations, they have to be subjected to, yeah, correct. So yes, abiotic factors will change, even biotic factors will change, like probably the grain is different from, assuming that the sparrows are granivorous birds, that means that they eat only grains. The food resources are different in Spain and in India. So yes, definitely interactions will change and definitely fitness levels will also, they won't be comparable and between the two populations. Yes, all right. So can someone tell me what are the 5 tenets to natural selection? What are the 5 main components to natural selection? Any guesses? A lot of you told me what is natural selection. Species fitness, sure. Variation, yes, that is, yes, a very important factor. So overpopulation, yes, correct. So sorry, inheritance, yes. What does inheritance mean?
Third one is struggle for existence.
Sorry, I think I didn't catch you correctly.
Transmission of character from one generation to the next generation.
Correct, yes. So a single word for that is, you've given the correct definition.
Ma'am, is it adaptation 1?
Adaptation, no. We are talking about inheritance. And inheritance over generations, there's a particular word for this. Okay, so I'm not sure if this has been covered, but it's called hereditary. So it's transmission of traits from one generation to another. So these traits need to be heritable. So they need to be genetically transmitted, as you have, several of you are writing in the chart. Yeah, so heritability, then you have variation. Variation, can you give me examples of what variation is? Like a particular, so we are always talking about traits. So heritability of traits, variation of traits. Could you give me examples of variation in traits of perhaps any human example, common human examples?
Yes, all humans are different from each other.
Sure. In what all aspects? Like we are all the same species, but what are the differences? Like,
And here,
yeah, go ahead.
Skin color,
here comes our
Sure. Skin color, height, yeah.
eye color.
Eye color, yes, correct. Fingerprints, yes, fingerprints are very unique amongst all humans.
and blood.
Iris color, yes. Blood type, yes, of course.
Intelligence,
Intelligence is really tricky, you know. We can't really, there's a high amount of variation in that. Yes, it is
it is
different.
a type of the polygenic inheritance. Huh?
Yeah, polygenic inheritance is kind of like eye color and any physical
Character,
traits.
character that shows a gradation.
Sure. Yes. Sure. Polygenic traits are basically, yeah. Alright, so we have covered, they need to be heritable, they need to show some variation. Someone mentioned overpopulation, which is excessive. So, any organism can indefinitely produce new organisms, but that doesn't happen. What do you think that is controlled by?
By predation or
Sure.
natural selection.
Sure, by predation, predator prey interaction, yes, sure. There can also be other factors, right? So you've given an example of biotic factor. That can be a limiting factor, but what could be the other limiting factors to overpopulation?
Competition.
Competition, yes, sure. Yes. Sorry?
Physical factors also.
Correct. Physical factors like?
Physical factors. Light, temperature.
Correct. Availability of food, yes, that's really important, right? Availability of resources. So if you have only a fixed number of amount of resources, you can only have a certain amount of species that can feed on those resources, right? And I think this links to even your Lotka-Volterra model. So yeah, I think we have almost covered all the space. Yes, definitely space. So you have heritability of traits, variation in traits, excessive production and offspring, survival of the fittest, and selection usually occurs on traits that are best adapted to the environment. Right. So for I think one last question, could you tell me what are the types of selection out here? I have a figure showing the different types of selection. Would anyone like to tell me? Okay, what is figure 1? What type of selection?
Directional selection. Directional.
Correct, correct. So, could you explain to me what is directional selection?
Stabilizing selection.
No, we just go with directional selection for now. Could you explain to me what is directional selection?
Directional.
Yeah, it's happening. So what is A and what is B? The red line and the blue.
Ma'am, directional selection is when the entire population or one specific character is favored over the other characters, and the entire subsequent generations they tend to have that selected trait.
Right. Sure. Yes, that is correct. All right. So what is the other kind of selection that is happening in panel 2? Any guesses? Selection happening in panel 2?
Intermediate.
Right.
B is the 2 is stabilizing selection.
Right. Yes, that is the technical term for it. So, what is exactly stabilizing selection? And if you could give me an example.
One particular.
Yeah, go ahead. Anyone else, please feel free to add to
Human
Ryan or
survive.
Yeah, sorry, I think
The new young one born.
Yeah, go ahead, Amol. I don't know if it's my internet or what's happening. It's kind of stuck.
No, ma'am, it's my internet.
Oh, all right.
Human.
Yeah, go ahead.
Human young one survive.
The number of
3 to 4.
So
the number of offspring.
Yeah, number of offspring, no, this is a kind of selection. So what is actually happening? So you have like a whole range of traits, right, on the x-axis, but what is happening with in stabilizing selection? What is the trait that is getting selected for?
The young one survive in a between 3 to 4 kg in case of human being.
Right, all right. As opposed to
the lower than 3 kg and more than 4 kg.
Right. So yes, that would be an example of stabilizing selection, where you have like an optimum weight that is selected for, and you have pressures on both the sides. So you have the lower weight on one side that is not really favorable, and the higher weight on the other side, which is also not that favorable. And all right, and what about panel 3? What does panel 3 tell me? Correct, disruptive selection. Pallavi, would you like to describe disruptive selection a little more? Anybody would like to give any examples, or even it need not be like a real example, it could be like a hypothetical example also. Alright, Sulochana has said division of species into two extremes. Sure, that is correct.
Light color oysters.
Sorry, did you say light colored oysters?
Yes, ma'am.
As opposed to, what are the other extreme traits then? You could just make up anything. Like I think any example will do. Like if you have black and white beetles and the middle grey beetles, you will find in the case of disruptive selection, what's going to happen is that the two extreme colors, which is white and black, are going to be selected for, but the grey beetles or the grey organisms are going to be eliminated because there is a selection pressure against this trait. So yeah, I think this wraps up all the questions that were decided. But does anyone have any doubts? I'm happy to answer any doubts, or anyone wants to go through any of the earlier questions. Any queries? Does anyone have anything that they found interesting in the lectures and would like to discuss with everyone? It need not be a doubt also. No? Okay. Nobody has any doubts? All clear? Actually, this is just the introductory classes, so not much is there. But I don't think I have any spare lectures, questions as well. But yeah, you can feel free to leave if you have no doubts, or I'm happy to stay for another 10 minutes. Yes, you need the link for the previous lecture. I'll just post that on the discussion forum. So I'll post the YouTube channel for Jobin, and I'll post the YouTube channel for me. So everybody can go through all the previous lectures, and I'll have these slides also uploaded for you.
Ma'am, I had a query.
Yes, sure.
No, I just want to ask whether the examination will be subjective or descriptive type, ma'am.
Oh, that's a great question. So I haven't TA'd for this lecture before, but I can find out from the course instructor as to what would be the exam format. I can just note that down. I think it might be a mix, but to be sure, I can just note it down.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm going to ask like an extra question. So, what are the levels of organization in ecology? Do you have any idea as to what are the levels of organization in ecology?
Cellular level, tissue level, organ level.
Okay, that is not ecology, right? So let's
Ma'am,
go.
I guess, can I try, ma'am?
Sure, go ahead.
Ma'am, I guess it is organism, then it is population, then it is community, then it is ecosystem, I guess, and then further it is biosphere, and then it is biome.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't see who answered before, but you had started with cell. So let's go right down to the definition of ecology. And ecology is a study of interactions that determines the distribution and abundance of organisms. So we start at the organism level. So your lowest is organism, and as you had correctly described right now, the different levels of the hierarchy is starting from the organism to the population to then the community. After that you have the ecosystem, the biome, and then the biosphere. Yeah. So we start at the species level, which is the organism level. And does anyone want to describe what an organism is? Okay, I think all of you know what is an organism,
Ma'am,
but
organism is,
yeah, sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
Ma'am, organism is it is the individual unit of ecology. You can say that it is the starting point where ecology starts. And if
Sure.
we talk in the respect of biology, then it is a combination of all cells working together to make one complex organism.
Right, correct. Alright, yeah, so you have nailed the species part of it, the organismal level. So what is ahead of organism? You have a population. Could someone else maybe describe what is a population?
A group of individuals belonging to same species.
Correct. So yes, a population will only be a group of individuals that are belonging to the same species. So you can't have a population. So will I call a group of cats and dogs together as a population?
No, ma'am.
Right. So it is going to be two populations. One of population of cats and one population of dogs, right? And could someone tell me So I think Imran has written out everything in the chat box. Thanks for that. I don't have a slide for this, but yes, what is the next level? What is a community?
A group of population makes a community.
Right, and populations of
different species.
correct. So now we progress to different species, right? And community level studies are very interesting and very intricate because they have a lot of different interactions between the different species themselves, and community level interactions are but what is the unifying factor of a community? Can I say, for example, what can I give you an association of? Like bees in India versus flowers in, I don't know, let's say Bhutan. Can I call that the same community? Like bees in Kerala versus flowers in Uttarakhand. Was that the same community?
No.
No, ma'am. I guess it is not the same community because they need to be geographically together.
Right, yeah. So even Pallavi has written geographical community. Yes, they need to belong to the same area. They need to be in the same area and they need to interact with each other, right? So a community is basically populations of different species that are found in the same area. And the community also includes all of the biotic factors of an area. So now into the higher level, you have the ecosystem. So what happens at the ecosystem level? What is
Ma'am,
the
interaction starts with abiotic as well as biotic factors.
right? So right at the ecosystem level, what is happening is you're introducing the abiotic factors, and you're introducing interaction of the biotic, which is the living organisms, with the environment, which is your abiotic factors, right? So ecosystem involves biotic and abiotic factors. And then you have the higher one, which is the biosphere, which technically just includes the entire earth, all the oceans and the atmosphere. So when you are doing any kind of research, you need to see the scale at what you are studying these organisms at, and you can make different theoretical extrapolations as to how species will interact at various scales. So if I'm studying like a particular bird and how resources affect this bird, like what is the food preference of a particular bird, I'm studying this at an organism or a population level, right? Do they like berries versus insects? But if I'm studying it at a greater level, what affects the distribution of these species, whether they are found in like grasslands or forests, so I need to go to the next level. So based on the question that you are asking, you study your target species at different levels. So organization in ecology is very important for this. Alright, so I think we are 2 minutes left for the session. Any other queries or any doubts, if anyone has? If not, I just remember to post the links for both the tutorial sessions. And also find out the exam format. I'll put that on the discussion forum or something. Disruptive selection. So what is exactly disruptive selection? Right, where just bring up that slide. Here you are. Yeah, so the last one is disruptive selection. What is happening in disruptive selection? So you have a series of traits, right? But in disruptive selection, like if you look at figure 3, the extreme ends of the trait are chosen, right? So your x-axis has the traits, and your selection pressure is acting down the middle. So the intermediate trait is not chosen for, but your extreme traits are chosen for. So in my hypothetical example of like black, grey and white, beetles, in this case the intermediate color morph grey is selected against, right, and is not the chosen trait, but the black and white colored beetles are chosen. They are the traits that are selected for. It's just the opposite of the stabilizing selection, where you have the intermediate trait that is selected for. So figure 2 has stabilizing selection, so it's acting against both the ends. Somebody gave an example of human children between the weights of 3 to 4 kgs are selected for. So that is like the optimum weight that is selected for. But those that have lower than 3 kilos or over 4 kilos are not selected for. They are not an optimum weight for survival. Incomplete, well, real life example is of these babies, right? Babies, particular weights of babies. Incomplete dominance. So I think we will cover incomplete dominance in the lectures of evolution. So yes, keep that in mind. But that is to deal with expression of certain traits, right? It is not dealing with this exactly. Similar but not exactly. Yeah. Any other queries? I think we're done. So I think it was great to have a lot of you out here for the session, and I shall see you next Tuesday at the same time, and we shall cover week 2's lectures and discuss more. All right, yeah, thank you for coming, and see you next week. I shall stop the recording first.